Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the Council. It's my pleasure to present the Moscow Urban Renewal Agency's annual report for activities within the 2015 fiscal and calendar years. So just to provide a little bit of background, per Idaho Code, Sections 50, 2006C, urban renewal agencies are required to provide an annual report by March 31st of each year to the jurisdiction's governing body. In this case, the Moscow City Council is a governing body for the Moscow Urban Renewal Agency, but if it was an agency that existed within a county, that would be the Board of County Commissioners of that county that would be the governing body. This annual report that you're receiving this evening is for the 2015 calendar year, and it includes statistics and financial information for the 15 fiscal year. The annual report includes a profile of the agency, a description and identification of the Board of Directors and their operations with the agency. It also includes some significant achievements for the 2015 calendar year and then describes the different districts that the agency operates within the City of Moscow that include both the Alturas district that was closed in the 2015 calendar year, as well as the remaining single open district of the agency, which is the Legacy Crossing district. We also include an inventory of agency-owned properties and assets of the agency, and then we close with the financial statements that cover the 15 fiscal year. So to provide a little bit of background on the profile, the agency was organized and created by the Moscow City Council in 1995. The agency acts as its own arm of the Idaho state government. It's entirely separate and distinct from the City of Moscow. The purpose of the agency is to undertake urban renewal projects in areas designated by the City of Moscow to be deteriorating and to undertake rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, or a combination thereof in the interest of the public health, safety, morals, or welfare of the residents of the City of Moscow. And so that is the charge of the agency. It is comprised of 7 commissioners that are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. It includes 2 members that are identified as members of the Moscow City Council, 1 member of Latah County Commission, and 4 members from the citizenry at large within the City of Moscow or within Latah County underneath the bylaws. The agency's executive director oversees the day-to-day operations of the agency and carries out the policies as directed by the board. The City of Moscow is responsible for defining the geographic boundaries of urban renewal districts and project areas and the creation of all urban renewal districts within the City of Moscow. The agency's activities within these districts are directed by specific urban renewal plans that are adopted by the Moscow City Council and reviewed by the city's Planning and Zoning Commission as well. And the agency provides funding for these efforts through the use of tax increment financing. Tax increment financing, tax increment revenues are used by the agency to pay for public improvements and other revitalization activities that occur within the districts. And this is a graphic that illustrates the creation of the district and the creation of what is the base valuation within that within the district. Over time, as that value increases, taxes that are generated off this increased valuation goes to the agency to make investments to promote and spur economic development and private investment within the districts. And at the close of the districts, which is currently limited to 20 years, that full assessed evaluation goes back on tax rolls for the benefit of the taxing districts and the community at large. This helps diversify and strengthen the economic base of both the city and Latah County as a whole for all the taxing districts that operate and levy within the community. And looking at our significant agency achievements in 2015, the first of which was the closure of Alturas Technology Park Urban Renewal District. The agency was successful and able to close the district a year ahead of schedule, returning $20 million of increase assessed valuation to the taxing districts ahead of the anticipated schedule date of that district. The second was advancing the 6th and Jackson property that the agency acquired several years ago. The agency conducted a request for proposals process, and Sangria Downtown LLC was selected to build a new development on that site as soon as environmental remediations are complete. That project will include additional commercial space and residential units, estimated to be about $6 million project on that site. The third item was the continued environmental remediation of the 6th and Jackson site. That property was heavily impacted from prior ag chemical storage and distribution uses on the property. And so as a result, there are a number of contaminants that relate to ag fertilizers, primarily nitrates and ammonia on the property, and we've been working through the process of environmental remediation for the last 3 years. We completed the bulk of the remediation work this last year with the removal of 1,000 yards of contaminated soils, and we're now in conducting groundwater treatment on the site, moving forward to getting our certificate of completion and paving the way for the property to be redeveloped and put back into productive use. As I mentioned, there are 2 districts in the agency that in 2015, the Alturas district was closed in the 2015 calendar year, and Alturas is our one remaining operating district. As you look at the Alturas Technology Park District, that was the agency's first district created by the city. It is now home to many of Moscow's premier high-tech companies, including Comtech EF, Data Corporation, Alturas Analytics, Anatech Labs, and Biotracking LLC. It was established in 1996 with a base assessment of $6.4 million. Improvements in private developments have increased the property values to increased it by more than $22 million over that time period. And you can see the chart here shown at the establishment of the district with $6.4 million in valuation. That's the base valuation, and the $22 million of increased value that has occurred since that district was formed.
Dan's got a question.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
In that same 20 years, how does that compare to other valuations within the city?
That would be over double the pace of valuation growth in other areas of the city.
Okay, thanks.
The agency was pleased to be able to close that revenue allocation a year ahead of time, as well as being able to disperse back some excess increment revenues, a little over $800,000 that the agency had collected within that district, back to the taxing district, so it will be occurring in the next week or so. Legacy Crossing is a fairly new district. That was created in June of 2008 and is the agency's second urban rural district within the city of Moscow. The Legacy Crossing district covers approximately 163 acres, including a number of underutilized prior ag industrial properties located between the University of Idaho and the downtown core. A number of projects are underway or in the planning stages, including the Gritman Medical's office building development, the Sangria Downtown LLC project, the Fields Holding project, and several others are currently on the planning stages. While this district was created really at the peak of the recession in 2008, we have not seen that same kind of growth during that time period, but we do see a little over $40 million in projects that are either under construction or in the planning stages at this point in time. So we do expect to see this trend within Legacy change fairly dramatically in the coming years. The agency owns 6 remaining lots in Alturas Technology Park, and we own the 6 in Jackson property that's planned to be transferred and conveyed to the Sangria Downtown LLC group. So that is the inventory of the agency's real estate properties that we currently hold. As we look at trends in revenues and expenditures, property tax revenues are shown here in blue, and you can see that they have generally grown. In the 2015 fiscal year, they totaled $586,000 in increment revenue. In 2015, Legacy had about $179,000 revenue, and the remainder was in the Alturas district. As we look at expenses, they have remained fairly flat, around $211,000 for the 2015 fiscal year, and this is just investment income that has peaked in 2015 at a little over $9,000 in income. As we look at our expenditure trends, both for debt service as we have paid off the debts both within Alturas and Legacy, those have varied a little over time. The operating expenses have remained fairly flat over that time period, totaling $129,000 in the 15 fiscal year, and our capital outlay has been fairly modest since the construction of Alturas, so we have not had large capital expenditures over the last several years. Looking at our agency assets, liabilities, and net position, total assets are shown here on the blue line, ending in the 15 fiscal year at a little over $2.8 million in total agency assets. The net position is just below that, and taking consideration of the debt and liabilities for the agency, sitting at about $2.3 million in net position and about $515,000 in remaining total liabilities. The bulk of that are the bonds on the debt on the 6 in Jackson property that we expect to retire with the sale of that property in the near future. As we look at our asset distribution, we have roughly $600,000 that are net capital assets, $1.7 million in unrestricted fund assets and $44,000 in debt and service restricted assets that we have for the debt service for the 6 Jackson property bonds. A large piece of this unrestricted, about $850,000, will be rebated back to the taxing districts here in the near future, so that will reduce that number by a fair amount. So we're pleased to offer the report this evening. We've got a full copy in your packet. We did present this at the agency's meeting here a couple weeks ago. There was an opportunity for public comment, and we did receive written comments that are included in the report from Victoria, who was kind enough to provide the agency with comments. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that the council may have.
Bill, I got a question on the 6 lots that we have left out at Alturas. How are we getting along with selling those? Because I know they've been up for sale for a while.
So the agency still maintains a listing and sale agreement with Palouse Commercial Real Estate, and we are working with them to develop a new marketing proposal to advance the sale of those lots. At the same time, the Community Development Department has been reviewing the RTO zoning district, the allowable uses, and have been consulting with the existing business and property owners within Alturas Park to look at ways that we could create a little more flexibility in the range of allowable commercial uses out there to promote the development of Alturas. We're also looking forward to partnering with the upcoming PEP organization, the Partnership for Economic Prosperity, to look at economic development strategies we might be able to implement to try to move those lots. So the agency certainly is interested, and the lots are currently available, and we would encourage anybody who has an interest to contact us.
Other questions for Bill? Jim?
What can you tell me about the Lake Dumas property at the corner of Almond and A Street?
That property is undergoing environmental remediation as well. There was a little bit of deodorant on one portion of the site that they will be working on remediating. They were doing the demolition last fall and doing the foundation removals when the weather came in, so they got weathered out. So we have had some water accumulation as they have sat over the course of the winter. They anticipate coming back as soon as things dry out a little bit this spring. They'll be removing that water, removing the remaining foundations, and doing structural fill placement to recondition the site. So we would expect to see improved conditions this summer, as soon as weather conditions allow.
Good question, Jim. Well, thank you, Bill, for the report. Okay, well, we're going to move on. Do we need to make a motion to accept that?
You can accept receipt of it.
Yeah, we're okay. So we need a motion from
I
somebody.
would move acceptance and receipt of the annual report from the URA.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Art and a second by Catherine to accept the URA report, the 2015 annual report presented by Bill Knapp. I'll start the roll. John?
Aye.
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 Aye.